Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this talk on scale and optimize data engineering pipelines. So this time we will focus more on modularity and automated testing using software engineering best practice. By the end of the talk, you will have learned how to make your current Airflow products to the next professional level. This is a high-level session without any demo. All right, so my name is Kyung. As you can see from my outfit, I'm a big fan of the fashion industry. Right now, I'm a senior data engineer at Levi's, an amazing fashion company with a long history. Previously, I had also worked at another great fashion company, H&M Group in Sweden. So how much you know about Levi's? In 1873, Levi's produced the world's first jeans to meet the miners' needs for the harder wearing gear. This pen is Levi's 501. Today, Levi's is a global company with 110 countries. We have rich heritage, 167 years of creating some of the world's most loved iconic apparel. And we look to our future by putting our customers' needs firmly at the center of everything we do. However, we are more than just a fashion company. Despite the challenges this year, Levi's data and AI acceleration has led to a profitable third fiscal quarter. We have increased the footprint of our online business by more than 50%, and it now accounts for 25% of the whole company's revenue. Our data now across the entire fashion chain, from product design to the customer experience. More than 10 AI products has been released in production in a very short time. So how did we achieve this, especially in the data engineering? All right, today, my talk will be in three parts. Firstly, we will look at a little bit of a hypothesis to see, like, for example, you already have an Airflow project running well, and then what can we do to optimize and scale to bring to next level? And finally, we will go to talk about a little bit of auto testing for your products. All right, so now let's move to the first part, hypothesis. So to begin with, let's say you already have a great data engineer projects running for your company, your team, that is on cloud, built on Airflow, and that's processed every day on TB level of data by batch. Okay, so you can fetch your data from different sources like the cloud services, the APIs, or even some on-prem data warehousing maybe your company already built decades of years ago. Okay, and then your Airflow running from on some different cloud provider services like Azure, VMware, AWS EC2, and so on and so forth. And then you will load in the end your data into data warehouse or data lake that based on your needs of your clients for the data. So let's hypothesize your projects already have some basic setup to make sure the performance is, the code quality, data quality is good, okay? So you have a great development environment, you have local, you have dev, you have pre-production, you have production. You also have, for example, sample data running in your local and dev, so you don't need every time to pursue ETL, the whole database, to see if your work is working or not. You also have a GitHub setup for your coding. You have also great naming conventions for your pipelines, your data, your schema, for whatever. And you have a Docker, Kubernetes running whenever it's necessary. Your Spark cluster is running well. The Spark cluster can be running on some AWS EMR cluster or Databricks, and so on and so forth. Okay, and then you also have a great CI/CD process, and you probably already set up a third versioning. So by chance your team deleted some data by mistake, you will always be able to roll it back. There's no loss for you. But today, what we are focusing is more about the code. Okay, so how is your code quality? How to maintain, how to test, how to extend your code, right? So what you will have in the end, many teams at the beginning, they will set up some Airflow projects with a little bit complex structure. For example, you have your Airflow folder that contains your docs operators. That's okay. And then you will have some util folders or modular folders. That is something in common for your functionality, right? So some of your docs are doing these things all the time. some of your operators do the same things all the time. You don't want your code repeated everywhere, right? So you want to extract them and then put it into different folders, make it like functions, classes, methods. That's really good. And also you might have some documentations folder to keep some data catalog, some technical documentation for your functions operators. And then you probably will also have some tests ongoing here. So the goal for us today, in the end, you will keep it simple as just Airflow folders and some other folders. All the rest in the red color should be disappear. When I say disappear, it means like it will be decoupling from your Airflow projects and find a smarter way to automate the process and test it well. So how could we do that? Well, now let's have some fun with the optimization part. So the first thing, before we go to optimization, I just want to have a quick review of the professional ETL procedure for most of all the fashion, not the fashion industry, the data industry is using right now, okay? So hypothesis, you have a data lake that has different zones. You have bronze zone, you have silver, you have gold. You have two group very important clients. One of them is data scientist, one of them is business analyst. So they will use your data by different manner, because data scientists, most of the time, they will just get some data and training on the same data set again and again. But business analysts, they will need to request the data, request the system, and hitting the system very regularly, okay? So you have some data source over there, you want to have your data here, okay? So first step, you will do a copy paste of your source data. So when I say copy paste here, you just get the raw data and backup in your system. So next time, if you want to redo the same data, you don't need to hit the source system anymore, because very often the source system could be very sensitive, right? So everybody is fetching the data over there, it can easily crash. All right, so once you have your data copy paste to your bronze zone, and then you will be able to go to silver zone. What silver zone is doing, you will be able to clean up a little bit data. So source data might have a lot of issues. It's missing primary key. There's a lot of duplications, and you don't have partition colons that can speed up your performances for querying. And you also need to do some transformation, right? So source table has 10 columns, but I just need 5 columns. So those 5 columns can be a join of the other 2 columns, right? So this can be all done in the silver zone. So once you have your silver data, most of the time in retail industry, that will be dimension tables and fact tables. And your clients will say, well, I want to have a table that is joined with my customer information, with my product information, with my sales information, and then I don't need to join by myself. I just need to load the data and training my models. Okay, in this case, you probably will need to do some aggregation of tables from your silver zone and then load them back to your aggregation, the gold zone. Okay, so there are of course different ways of ETL professional data nowadays, but this is like a typical way many of the big companies using. So after we review the standard way of doing the ETL, we can take a look, look a little bit more to the next one. Okay, so build Airflow docs. So why this is important? If you don't know the professional way of ETL, then many of junior team of data engineering companies, they can crazily create you a crazy Airflow docs like just what I show here. That's not the case. So what is Airflow doc? Airflow doc is just a template of tasks for your pipeline to go. That's supposed to be built on top of the data feeds, which means like whenever you want to fetch a data feeds, that will be a different Airflow docs. You don't want to have one doc that is triggering the whole pipeline for every data feeds and running at the same time. That is crazy. That is not maintainable. That is not testable. So if you're following the standard way of ETL, your Airflow docs can be simple, like as only 4 to 5 tasks. So the first task, of course, you want to fetch some raw data. And then second task, you want to clean and transform of your data. And after that, you validate your data before you load your data into your data lake and data warehouse. And in the end, please don't forget to collect some metadata. What's the metadata? Like every day you process the data, but how many of rows of data you collect, right? So what time you collect it, Why is this important? This will be very important KPI for the team and the company to guarantee the data quality. Okay, so in the beginning, you might have one more task that is called skip in Airflow. That is for you to maybe sometimes control some of your pipeline. For example, you have pipeline running 2 times a day. In the morning, you need to fetch the data from USA and China. And in the afternoon, you need only fetch the data from China. Okay, in this case, a skip task can help you to skip. Okay, so in the afternoon, I don't need to go to USA anymore. I just need to get the data for China. Okay, do not do anything in the ETL Airflow docs. What does it mean? So docs is only to help you to build a template like your pipeline should do, which means like in the code of the docs, there's no things like extract, transform, and load. So where should we do this code extract and transform and load? That will be in Airflow operators. Okay, so operators is the functions the classes do the real work. All right, so that could be a classes like, okay, so I might launch a Spark cluster, that's an operator, okay? I might need to do some remove duplication of data, that's an operator, okay? So in the operator classes, then you will exactly do it step by step, like how to load my data, how to clean my data, how to transform my data step by step. And also operators is a good thing for you to select some common behavior in your doc. So you don't need to repeat your code base everywhere. So I get 2 data feeds from different source system, but the transformation is more like the same. Then for the 2 docs, I can just call the same operator. I don't need to repeat it anymore. Okay, so that is the benefit of operator. But a pitfall many junior data engineering team might happen is like Airflow offered us some default operators that the very famous one is like a Python operator, right? But some of the company, they just directly open this Python operator defaulted offered by Airflow and then started customize it in this code. No, please never do that. Why? Because Airflow will release different versions later on, right? If you optimize, you touch the source code of the packages, you optimize, customize over there, and then you will have a dependency to keep updating your projects to the different level, right? So what we strongly recommend you to don't touch the default operators. Whenever you want to enrich or customize some operators, create something new for yourself, okay? Give a good name. And then when the new versions of Airflow release, you will be very fast to upgrade to that level because you didn't touch anything in the packages. And then you just do something extra by your own to add it better. Okay. So what's the next things we can optimize? Decoupling and modularity is so important. As I showed to you before, that you need to have your doc operators. Operators is the classes, right? And probably many teams also have some best practice that is really good, like you extract some common functions and common classes that is repeated in the docs and operators. And you load them into some utility folders and modular folders. That's really good. Why this is important for decoupling this kind of things? Because you will be able to split this kind of modulars and utilities to a different projects. Why you want to split them to a different projects? Because then you can publish these projects to a pipeline, right? That will be a separate project. You publish a pipeline, and that once it's become a separate project, you will have 100% freedom to test and to release as much as you want without touching your Airflow pipelines. No one wants to touch too much your Airflow pipelines because they are dealing with data. When it's dealing with all of the data, they will have impacts on the client side, right? So you touch something crash, your clients don't receive the data in time, they will yell at you. But if you make sure your packages in different products, you testing whatever you want, you release as much as you want with different versions, what you need to do, go back to your Airflow, is just need to pipe install, update the version of packages, and everything works smoothly like it is, right? So another thing, many people forget about building Airflow pipelines for data engineering is like, well, I do my work ad hoc. So business people, business team give me a request. I want this data tomorrow. Then I just launch a Jupyter notebook, explore, do it step by step. Once this is done, I copy paste my code. I put it in Airflow, doc, and doing the work. That is not even a functional programming, and that is so far away from object-oriented programming. It's not your fault because we do explore and build a POC very often with Jupyter Notebook. That is really great tool for us to do it step by step because it's caching the results. We don't need to run our Python scripts from the beginning to the end and reload everything. That takes time, okay? But what object-oriented programming will help you is still for decoupling and modularity. And then later on, you will be doing your unit test. You will be able to maintain your code for long term, okay? So from today, before make it works, what we need to say to our business colleagues, like, give us some time. Why? Because we want to take some time, not only to make it work, but make it work smartly in a longer term. And trust me, refactoring your code later on will always take a longer time than do a better work at the beginning. Okay, so for your pipelines, what can you do? At least you make some function classes, right? You don't like let it code flies with a freestyle everywhere. You want to make an abstract class. For some classes, they always have the same method and actions. Okay. Also, in function classes, you want to do a typing check. That's a cool feature started from Python 3.6. Right. So before you're running your code, your IDE might already be able to tell you like you gave a wrong data type for your variables. And you don't need to wait 2 hours to run your pipeline. And then you see your pipeline crash because this kind of very small, tiny mistakes you made. Okay. And also you can use a lot of Python features like decorators to make your code looks much more simpler and professional. All right. So object-oriented programming is good. And then you also need to think about design patterns. I've got involved with a lot of process for recruiting our companies for data engineers. Every time I ask questions about design pattern, they always tell me, oh my God, that's a long time story. Last time I used design pattern is almost 10 years, 8 years ago. But design pattern is very important. Right? So our pipeline is not ad-hoc work. We want to maintain, we want to test our code. We might have some similar data feeds come to us next day, and we don't want to rebuild everything from scratch. We can just easily use some function classes that are already built. That only differences for this new data phase is pointing to a new different location. Okay, then design pattern is so important for us to be able to unit test our code. Each of the function, each of the method of the classes should do only one thing, right? Did you follow up with a single responsibility? Did you follow up some principle of open close? That is something always to help us in the middle term and long term for the projects. And the good things for the object-oriented programming and data design patterns is like nowadays many IDEs like PyCharm, Visual Studio Code already offer you a very good tool to automatically convert your code into that way, right? You just need to select all your code base, right-click, change my code, make my code into methods, into classes, and that will be done in a second. Okay, and then another thing is like people didn't pay attention nowadays in data engineering domain is about readability. I just want to write a code that I can read. I don't care the other people because I'm not sure like they will be read my code. Business people push me to give some results tomorrow. I just make it works. But no, most of your time, your code will be read by the other teams, by the other companies, or by the other strategy. Right? So readability is so important. We don't want to spend too much time to write documentation by hand. If you write a good code, giving a good naming convention of your variables name, your class name, that is like an article, right? So reading a code should offer you a good mood. So whenever you open code that is pretty, that always makes my day really cheerful. Okay, so in Python, we already have some global standards like Pipe8 and so on and so forth that helps a lot for us to format the code. And also you can take some tools like IDE, PyCharm, Visual Studio Code, and Black to format your code in a second. consider that this kind of tools can help you a lot, but that's not perfect, which means like 80% of work will be done and 20% of work you still might need to optimize a little bit or the double check by hand. Okay. So docstring, yeah, many people build the docs by hand. No, please don't do that. You can use Synix, for example, for once you have docstring in your functions classes, you will be able to run just a command line, and Synix will help you to build a professional documentation. Like the Panda, Spark, all the open source projects, no one write document by hand, okay? That is all generated automatically. And data catalog is the same thing, okay? So you have some markdown. Yeah, so you have some markdown files, build your data catalog. You just need to write some like basic structures and so on and so forth. And then your documentation will be built like a static website I showed you here. That is like Google, right? So if you see on the left side, there's a search bar. So for your tables, what time is produced? What's the source table? That table is built on top of this. What is the meaning of the colons? Is there any examples? Is this colon primary key colon? Right? You just put your colon name in the search bar, and then you search, and then that can be linked to a website you build with Synix, and you can share with this website to all your business clients or even some external clients. Cool. So far, I think we have seen what, why, and how we should optimize our Airflow projects with decoupling and modularity. Then how about testing? Testing could be really fun. Testing is to cover the issues of code quality and data quality. But sadly, nowadays, I know not so many people, not so many company and teams already set up their great testing as Lewis we did here. Okay, so in Lewis, once we finish the decoupling process and get all the classes and functions, we will be able to do the unit test, the integration test, and the end-to-end test and smoky test. So what is the unit test means? Okay, so unit test is testing some units. It's not like you have input data and then you check your output data, you compare, okay, so if the output data is what we want, following some business standard. No, we will look at this pipeline, take only one task, go into these operators, see one method in the operators and test only that method, okay? We might need to build some mock to simulate some input and output and get it done, okay? And then in this case, you will be able to test your code in locally for focusing that only unit. You don't need to wait your pipeline to finish, right? Your pipeline might run for 2 hours or 7 hours. But you just want to make sure like this new function I developed for my operator, for my DAX is working. I want to have the result in 5 seconds if it works or not. So unit test is the way for you to go, okay? There's a great tool of PyTest, this open source tool can help you quickly build a test coverage report and to show you like what is covered, what is the problem, and so on and so forth. Okay, once you have tested your unit, you are ready to release to production, right? Then you first release to pre-production, you want to run your whole pipeline, right? So I make sure like my personal doc that is working fine, but how about like all the teams updates all the docs and then in 1 week release all the things together? Are they going to have conflicts between each other, right? Then the integration test is very important to run in the pre-production environment to before you release to production to make sure everything goes like a whole project, a more general picture, and it works fine. Okay, and then in the end-to-end test is so important for data projects. So how could you verify your schema? Very often our source system has give us a table. That table has 10 columns. And then in the end, we have 10 columns and created our schema, okay? But one morning, they suddenly have 11 columns. They have one more column, but they forgot to inform us. Then our pipeline might crash because we defined our schema for only 10 columns, right? How to prevent this? Then you have to have a philosophy in the CI/CD process to test your bronze level with your silver and gold level, right? So this one will fetch some bronze level data and then compare automatically with your silver gold level if the total number of column is the same, if the data time of each column is the same, if there's any change, send you an alert on a dashboard or email. So before your pipeline running and crash after 2 hours, you already immediately notice what is going on and fix it as soon as possible. right? So once you have all the unit tests, the integration tests to make sure it's running well in pre-production, you checked also your schema from source to destination, then you might want to have a smoky test. That is like a little bit more than your production data. And then to make sure like when you release to production, your products and services or architecture is strong enough to hold so much of data running and at the same time or at different times, right? So that is something automated for you to make sure you build up professional data engineering pipelines. We go through a little bit of optimization steps for your Apple products. We also explain a little bit why modularity and the software engineering best practice like design pattern is important. I also explain you like what kind of automated testing you can do and what can you do to make it automated. Well, I've covered the points that I need to present today. Due to the time limits, this is quite high-level session. But if you are interested in how to set it up step by step, please reach me out on LinkedIn. It will be my pleasure to share and discuss you with more details. Okay. At the same time, I'm glad to announce that Levi's data team is hiring for all our office in USA, in Belgium, in France, in UK, and in China. If you are interested for the fantastic data and AI journey with us for the next 167 years, please scan the QR code and to see our open positions in details. Cool. So that concludes my talk for today. Thanks for coming. So now I'd be very interested to hear your concerns and questions.